Well, I'm Phyllis Neufeld, as he said, and my husband and I had the wonderful opportunity to go to Antarctica and Patagonia on a 25-day trip. We were there this past October 2023, from October 12th until November 4th. And 10 days of that time was in Antarctica and was absolutely phenomenal. If I had had the time just before we start to plan the trip out, I would probably have decided to go in January. And that's because that's when the baby penguins are around and there's more whales around, even though we did see a lot. And that's when I would have preferred to go. But we were offered a 2-for-1 deal, and it would have been $11,000 more to go this next year. Hence, we went in October and actually saw more than we had ever thought we would see. We went with a group called Hurtigruten out of Norway. We had a fabulous time on the MS Fram. Antarctica is immense. It's a majestic. It's harsh. It's not so harsh, depending on the weather, the sea, the temperature. And when I say Antarctic, that's the region, and Antarctica is the continent. And that can get below 60 degrees south latitude. That's where they consider the continent. You can't go below the Antarctic Circle. It's too icy. And we had, just before we start, we had 67 sites that were possible for us to land. Out of those 67 sites, they always have to do their planning, and then the night before they have to look at what's going on. The day of, they have to look at what's going on, because ice, weather can get in the way. So we started with plan A and we ended with plan O. So there were a lot of changes along the way. And this is just to show you where you'll be going. These islands over here in the red circle are the South Shetland Islands, and that's the first place that we went after we crossed Drake Passage. And then we went down to the peninsula, the Antarctic Peninsula. So we were in this area on the left-hand side of Antarctica. And this are the only slide that I will show you. Actually, I lied. There's one other that is not Antarctica. But because we're going to be seeing penguins, I wanted you to see these guys. These are in Chile, in Patagonia, and they are the Magellanic penguins. And they are really cute little guys. And there's 18 species of penguins in the world. There's only 5 in Antarctica. And these guys are not considered Antarctic. And they are known for their black body on the back, and their white body in the front and black on the back. And that helps them because in the ocean, the white camouflage is camouflaged by the light from the sky, and the black predators can't see them as well. They're creatures of habitat. They naturally mate for life. And this little guy is the same guy. He had come a few days early because the males come first and they set up the nest, and then the females come. So they were just in the process of getting ready for mating season. And this is Cape Horn. Cape Horn is extremely harsh. Before the opening of the Panama Canal in 1914, Cape Horn was a place that gave mariners nightmares. The waters are very hazardous. It's perfect for storms. The ocean floor goes from 13,200 feet sharply up to 330 feet. And because of that, there's massive waves, and they combine with the winds. And it's quite a frightening place if you're too close to it. And this was known as a graveyard for ships. And you can see the cragginess of the, we had almost landed here. They were going to try to land here, but it was too dangerous with the seas. Ah, the dreaded Drake Passage. The Drake Passage is the shortest route to get to Antarctica from the rest of the world. Sir Francis Drake never, ever used this passage. He preferred the Strait of Magellan, which was longer, but safer. We had entered at this point, and what we did during this time was they gave us muck boots, and we had to clean them in certain ways, and they had to be inspected. This group is very, very conscious of the environment. And so our boots had to be inspected before we were allowed to go out on land. They had to be inspected when they came back. If we dropped anything on the ground while we were on Antarctica, that had to be defogged when we got back onto the ship, so that they could keep everyone safe. There was a marine biologist with us, a historian, a professional photographer, a bird expert, and they had lectures every single day, which was wonderful. Now, what you're seeing up at the top left, this is a southern fulmar. They breed around Antarctica. They migrate north to Chile in the winter, and they're just under 4 feet wingspan. Beautiful bird. And I wanted to show you the difference in sizes in birds. So what you have here, the big one is a light-mantled albatross. His wingspan can be 11 feet. This is a Cape petrel. His wingspan is more like 3 feet, and you can see their size. And I did take this picture, although I did not know it at the time, so I was happy with it afterwards. This is the black-browed albatross, medium-sized albatross, the most common one. They can live from 32.5 years up to 70 years. And they weigh about 6.4 to 10.3 pounds. And their wingspan is about 6.5 feet. But they are beautiful birds. They fly into the wind and glide. They can fly in excess of 40 miles per hour. But they are not very good at taking off and landing. So they will land on the water, but it's awkward. And I wanted to show you a wandering albatross because wandering albatrosses are almost endangered. They're near threatened. And I had them and I found them later, but in this video, you can see the waves. I was inside, which that's, whoops, I shouldn't do that. That is the wandering albatross, the white one, right there. It's a beautiful bird. It's bigger than the albatross, the black-browed. Okay. It doesn't want to go to the next slide.
There's a little area. Yeah, there. Click right there. I think you'll be good.
There's a what?
Right, actually, where you were hovering next to the pause button, I think that might do it for you. There's right there. Try clicking there.
Aha.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. This is the light-mantled albatross. It's near threatened. Unfortunately, it's a beautiful bird. They're solitary nesters. They occasionally will nest in small colonies with up to about 15 of them. But they spend their time, except for the breeding season, they spend their time entirely at sea. And they weigh from 5.5 to 7.75 pounds, and their wingspan is just under 3 feet. But they are beautiful birds with blue eyes, which I think you can see in the top right hand. And oh, they eat squid, krill, crustaceans, fish, carrion, whatever they can find. These are just two more, excuse me, this is the sooty albatross. And that's just another kind of albatross. They all eat the same things. And on the left, what you see is a blue petrel. It's a beautiful bird. And the gray-headed albatross is on the right. This bird on the right with the gray head is endangered. The blue petrel weighs a little over 7 ounces. It dives, and it can go as deep as 6 meters in a dive. The gray-headed albatross is about 31.5 inches long, and they eat squid, fish, crustaceans, carrion, cephalopods, lampreys, whatever they can find. Now, I thought you might want a chance to see what the Drake Passage is like. We were eating dinner and I went to video it. So you can get a sense of the Drake Passage. There were a lot of people sick. We were not. I used the patch behind the ear. In fact, the interpreter for the German contingent who were on board was sick and could not translate much of the time. So that was a real problem for them. Okay, this was the first iceberg we saw in the entire trip. Now, mind you, this was at night. It was around 8:15, 8:30, and they made an announcement over the loudspeaker that there was an iceberg. And you're going to be seeing much clearer icebergs than this one, but everyone ran. Now, mind you, every single person that ran had our cameras. No hats, no gloves, no scarves, no anything, but we had our cameras. So this was a very exciting moment for us. I probably didn't tell you too much about the temperature yet. So I think I will do that now while you're looking at this. It can get up to minus 130 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter in the interior of Antarctica. Clearly, we weren't there then. At the coast in the winter, it can be as low as minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Obviously, the coast is warmer. And in the summer, spring and summer, it can be between 28.4 degrees Fahrenheit and 46.4 degrees Fahrenheit. We were there in their spring, where it sort of just begun. It never got below 20 degrees on any day we were there, no matter if it was raining, sleeting, snowing, never got below 20. And for a couple of days, 2.5 days, we had pristine weather with 33 degrees out, blue skies, beautiful clouds, and clear, calm water, which was unheard of by the crew. Now, 91% of the ice in the world is in Antarctica, and almost 70% of the world's fresh water is in Antarctica. The ice can get to 2 kilometers deep on average. As I said, it's one of the windiest and coldest places on Earth. The wind can get up to 200 miles per hour. It's 13,000,000 to 829,430 kilometers squared, which is almost 2 of Australia. There's igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, extinct, active volcanoes, and you're going to see a place that we went that has active volcanoes, but obviously not when we were there. They have found dinosaur fossils here from about 160 to 180 million years ago, and there was a dinosaur called the Saurus that was only in Antarctica. Glaciation started 40 to 60 million years ago. To form a glacier, the ice has to be around for at least a year, and then it can take hundreds or even thousands of years to form the glacier. So it's a beautiful place. Now, this is the first place that we were going to in Antarctica. And I should tell you from the previous slide is that Antarctica has sunk somewhat from the weight of all the ice. So that's just an interesting fact about there. This first place we were going to go was H.O. Island in the South Shetlands. And that's up in that left part that I showed you. And unfortunately, we were the first ship down there this year. So we're looking at virgin snow. And when we finally did get on land, we were on virgin snow that no one had ever been on before because it had been freshly laid over the winter. But the crew went out on the Zodiacs, which are the boats we ride when we go on land, to look for avian flu. And unfortunately, they found it. And the avian flu has now hit Antarctica. They looked for birds with outstretched necks, widespread wings, walking in circles. And because they found some of that here, we could not land on this particular island. And there are steep cliffs here. I think the height of the tallest one is 230 feet. There's Gentoo penguins, chinstrap penguins. I hit something. Elephant seals, giant petrels, fur seals, Weddell seals. But like I said, we could not land here. So instead, I'm going to show you a few pictures that I took while I was on the ship looking. These are the chinstrap penguins, which we'll see closer later. This is another, these were more artsy pictures I took. The nice colors in this photo are guano, which is the poop from the penguins. So as the season gets on and on, if we had been there later in the season, as I had intended, we would have seen much less snow or no snow, except at the top elevations, and we would have seen a ton of guano and been stepping in it. And so it was nice to be there when that wasn't happening. These are, it started to clear a little, and these are some of the pictures of the penguins from the ship that I took. And penguins porpoise. And there you can see them porpoising. And they do this so that they can keep swimming due to the fact that there are predators who come after them. The elephant seals, the leopard seals, and other prey. And so they can keep going at the same speed. They know they're always going to be able to breathe when they come up. And so that's how they get around. They are the fastest swimmers. These are gentoos. They're the fastest swimmers in the world. They can go up to 22 miles per hour. It's, as I said, good for avoiding predators. But you can really hear the wind. I'm sure you heard that wind as we went through this. And these are just pictures of the porpoising penguins. They can do as many as 450 dives a day to forage for food. They can go down about 650 feet, and they can stay underwater for 7 minutes. Although they do prefer to stay closer to shore because it's safer, they have been spotted about 16 miles out from where they usually breed. And I show you this one only because, well, I like the two pictures. This one to the left here, that's a penguin underwater. But this one here, I was so excited with this picture on the right. I thought, oh, look, its mouth is open and it's, you know, getting water as it dives. And then I realized that was the back end of the penguin. So it wasn't as exciting as I thought. This is, again, HO with the chin straps. And chin straps, you notice, have a black band that goes right underneath their necks, their chins, I should say, and what looks like a black helmet on top. You'll be seeing them close up as we go. And that's why they're called chin straps. By the way, they are the most abundant penguin. They have 7.5 million breeding pairs. That's how many they know of. They can reach depths of 230 feet diving, but they prefer to go about 148 feet. And most of their dives are quite shorter than the Gentoos. They only dive for 20 to 30 seconds. And this is just to show you how harsh that island is. And this was an iceberg we saw on our way to Half Moon Island. And that was going to be the first place that we were able to get off the ship. Now, this particular blue color comes from the fact that when the icebergs come off the glacier, when it's calved, there are minerals that have come that are in the glacier that are in this iceberg now, and they get compressed over thousands of years. And that's what makes the vibrant blue color. It is more blue when it's not sunny. I'm not sure why that is, but that is the case. And if you were to go later in the year to Antarctica, they're not as blue. And this is the last picture of HO, and I show it only because on every island, every single one we went to, there was one lone penguin who would always be standing looking out to sea when we were leaving. And don't ask me what he was looking at, but I loved it. Okay, this shows you where we're going to be going next. We were up in here at the beginning, and now we're going to Half Moon Island, which is right there. So this is the weather that we had at Half Moon Island. It was raining, sleeting, snowing. And what you see out here are an ice field. Now, if you see white ice there, that's the saltwater ice. If it was blue, that would be from the glacial ice. And we were able to get on land here. And that's just one more picture of the ice field. Apparently that's two more pictures, and some Gentoos porpoising. And this is us on the Half Moon Island. We went snowshoeing there, which is actually a lot harder than I expected it to be. But it was wonderful. This was the virgin snow. They have a large colony of chinstrap penguins here, over 3,000 breeding pairs. There's an Antarctic cormorant colony here on the southern tip. There's Antarctic terns, kelp gulls, snowy sheathbills, and usually some Weddell seals, and you will see some of those. And there are nesting skuas, which are birds that will eat baby penguins, so we hope they stay away. And later in the season, there'll be fur seals here and southern elephant seals. There'll be less and less snow, and more guano. Okay, these are the Gentoo penguins. They have the white patch that goes from one eye to the other, and this guy was nice enough to turn in both directions so you could see that. They have red feet, which you can't tell here. That's reddish orange, which is the same color as their bills. And we were told, they are, as I said, very conscious here of the environment. We were told to stay 15 feet away from them. Trouble is, they are naturally curious, and they will come up to you. So you have to keep backing off so that you're not right up to them. But they are just adorable. This is a picture of, they do a lot on their tummies. They will use that to walk forward as well, or to slide forward, as well as to walk. But these are the gentoos, and there were a ton of them right here. If you listen very carefully, I think you're going to be able to hear their voices above our voices talking.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
That's them. Don't get dizzy. I did it too fast.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, now this is a Weddell seal and her pup. They're 8.2 to about 11.5 feet long, the adult. They weigh anywhere from 882 pounds to 1,323 pounds. You don't want to pick one of those up, but you can see that this is the pup and this is the mom. And this was early in the season for them to have already had pups. So we were lucky to see that. Weddell seals are probably the calmest of the seals. This is a picture my friend took. I should have told you, I took all of the pictures here except for the few from the professional photographer and a few from a friend a lifelong friend I met while I was on the ship. And she took this picture and I loved it, of the Weddell seal and her pup. They are brown or dark silver with lighter color dappling on their bodies. And these are the chin straps up closer. They are, as I said, just adorable. They're medium-sized penguins. They have black heads, white faces, black stripe underneath the chin. They about 25 to 30 inches tall, 7.5 to 11 pounds. I wanted to find a way to take one home, but you know what? They don't allow that. They eat fish, krill, shrimp, and squid. And an amazing fact about them, they have been found to take 10,000 micro naps a day, 10,000, each one lasting about 4 seconds. And you can see in the top picture, his eye is open and his eye is closed here. He was taking one of his 4-second naps. They believe the reason for this is evolution, so that they could take care of their young, but they don't know for sure. And I just like this guy. He was talking to me. They can swim as far as 50 meters offshore every day to look for food. They have, like all penguins, they have very tightly packed feathers, which waterproofs them. And they also have a thick wall of blubber, like the other penguins, that has blood vessels in it, so that they can send that warmth to their extremities when they need to redirect heat to from their extremities, rather, to their organs. So I wish I could do that. Back to the Gen 2s. This was a mated pair on the left, and this was a very curious penguin who was following us on snowshoes. Some fun facts about these guys. During their deep dives, they can reduce their heart rate from 80 to 100 beats per minute down to 20 beats per minute, which allows them to stay under longer. They use nesting materials ranging from pebbles, mottled feathers when they're building their nests, and they have been known to steal from one another. So if someone comes up and drops his pebbles and goes back for more, they might steal from those pebbles and put it on theirs. They're the third largest penguin in the world, following the emperor and the king. There's the emperor, the king, the Adelie, the Gentoo, and the chinstraps that are down in Antarctica. And of those, we saw the chinstrap, the Adelie, and the Gentoos. And get down there. Here we go. This is an iceberg that was shed from a glacier. And if they were to melt, obviously it would increase the Earth's water supply. Not so with the sea ice water, because it's salt water. Some of the ice here is 100,000 years old. And those are cormorants. Remember, I told you there was a colony of cormorants on the southern part of the island, and they happened to fly past. This is the Adelie penguin. They are medium-sized again. They weigh 3 to 6 kilograms, approximately 70 centimeters tall. They have the white ring around the eyes. That's how you can tell that they're the Adelies from the Gentoos. It's difficult to tell the males and the females apart on any of these guys. And when enough snow covers the ice, they prefer to plunk down on their bellies and slide. Excuse me, the Adelie, the Emperor, the Gentoo, the Chinstrap, and the Macaroni is the fifth one. Sorry about that. They breed around the entire Antarctic coast and small islands, and they're the littlest species of penguins that are in the Antarctic. And they might be cute and a little clumsy looking, which they are on land, but don't be fooled, because they're feisty. They have been known to take on predators, even large seabirds or seals, or even attack researchers when they come. So they have a mind of their own. Now, this is me. And the reason I put this picture, not because it's a beautiful picture of me, but see this strap that's going straight up? That was the wind keeping it straight up. That's how bad the wind was. And as I said, it was snowing, it was sleeting, and I dropped my glove, which was a no-no because it had to be defogged when we got back to the ship. This is another picture of the Gentoos. I wanted you to see the old whaling boat that's right in the middle here. That whaling was a big deal down in the Antarctic back around the 1930s. And this is Commerce Station. This is a research station. There are 42 research stations in Antarctica. They are only inhabited, if they're going to be inhabited, in January and February, and that's because that's their summer, and no one lives here all year round, except the penguins, who you can see are still there. The stations I'll be talking more about as we go, but the plan for us for the following day was to cruise to Penguin Island. And heavy winds, snowfall, and swells canceled that idea. And instead, the captain told us we were in for a rough day on the seas, and we were heading to Admiralty Bay, where he hoped we could take a Zodiac ride. And this is Admiralty Bay. You can see here there's a combination of sea ice that you see on the left and the glacial ice, which you can see on the right. And there was an awful lot of that in the water in Admiralty Bay. The weather was iffy again, as you can see, pretty bad in the morning. This is just showing you Admiralty Bay. And this was our Zodiac, and this was the sea ice that was surrounding it. Now, this is very dense ice, so you can see how slowly we have to go.
If they crash into it, it's very, very strong. It's like solid rock kind of strength. Because it's super, super dense.
You can also see the snow coming down. So that's very dense, and we had to be very careful. This one is coming up to, it started to clear a little, and this is coming up to a smaller iceberg.
Here, which most likely come from the glacier.
Did I say it was windy? Now, what you're looking at here is black. Well, there are different types of ice. There's black ice, dirty ice, and sea ice and glacial ice. Black ice is clear ice that's been under pressure for many, many hundreds, thousands of years, and it's clear when you look down into it. So what you are seeing over here that looks like black ice is not black ice, that's dirty ice. Dirty ice is ice that has sediment stirred up from when it was on land. And it's tangled in the ice as it grows. And so it looks dark when you see it. Blue ice is glacial ice. The grayish whitish ice is the sea ice. And that should explain those four types. And I didn't mean to do that. There we go. And this is a sea lion who was very, very curious about us. He weighs about 881 pounds. He is endangered. They eat lobster, krill, seabirds, fur seals. They have been seen killing and eating young southern elephant seals. They are naturally curious. That's his back on the bottom right-hand side. But it was fun to see him. I was towards the back, so it was hard to get a picture, but I managed a little. Okay, and this brings us to our next place, which is Deception Island, one of our favorite places. Deception Island is this red island right here. It's one of the most incredible islands on the planet. It's an active volcano. It's in the South Shetland Islands off the Antarctic Peninsula. It's got unique landscape, volcanic slopes, steaming beaches, ash-layered glaciers, ice up to 100 meters in depth. And the bay, which is at the center of this, is the center of a flooded caldera, which is inward collapse of a volcano. There are submarine volcanoes in Antarctica. Deception Island is one of them. Penguin Island is another. There's three of them. There were three major eruptions here. And I think the next slide, yes. There's been a few earthquakes. There were a few earthquakes, but not much before the 1967 eruption. So the 1967 eruption was completely unexpected. It happened in the summertime, which is the only time the researchers are around. It was a pyroclastic flow, which means it's a hot, chaotic mixture of rock fragments, gas, and ash that travels rapidly away from the vent and collapses. The explosion was so strong that it formed a new island. Magma rose to the surface. There was a large crater formed. There was steam and ash and volcanic gases. It destroyed the Chilean station. It damaged the British station, but it didn't destroy it. The Chileans decided, that's it. They're not having a research station here anymore. The British decided, what the heck, we'll try it. So in 1969, there was a 4 a.m. explosion, and only the British were there. And there was some damage to their station, but they had moved higher, and that was it for them. the British station was abandoned and they don't have one there. There are currently 2 countries, Argentina, and another one who I don't remember at the moment, that are still there. But in 1970, it was during the winter, so no one was there to witness it. And it destroyed the island that the 1967 eruption had formed. The ground is hot from magma, and if you dig in the soil, you can get warm water or hot water that bubbles up. So you have to be careful because you don't want to get burned. And these are pictures coming not in Deception Island, but coming up to it. Pictures of icebergs that were in the water and the area that you see. This is Neptune's bellow. Neptune's bellow is the entrance to, excuse me, in my notes here. It's the entrance to Deception Island. It's only 754.5 feet across. And if you think about it, 754 feet, and you've got a ship that's coming in there, that's not a lot of room to maneuver. And there is something called Raven Rock, which is in the middle of the inlet, submerged under the water, 8.2 feet down. So you have to be very careful not to hit that, or you'll become like the shipwreck I'm going to show you if you do. But Neptune's bellow is this right here. And again, this is just the area coming in. You can see how close to the side we are as we were coming through. And this will also just give you a little idea of how close we were. Okay. Now, this is the remains of the whaling station that they stopped whaling in this area in about 1930. And in 1970, they declared this an historic site. This bay was named by the French Antarctic expedition under Charcot because of it was called Whalers Bay. Just this part of the inlet is called Whalers Bay because a lot of the whaling was done here, and they had the whaling factory here. The whaling factory, in 1930, when they stopped doing the whalings, it then became a shark factory for a while before it was completely abandoned. There are 3 countries that are really vying to want to own this area. Chile, Argentina, and the British. And even with the Antarctic Treaty, which I will talk about, they still vie for that area. And the Antarctic Treaty was, just so you know, governs Antarctica. And Soviet Union and the United States are key players. There's 48 nations that are members. And in 1991, they adopted their protocols on environment, which is part of the reason we're only allowed to put 100 people on land at any one time in Antarctica. And you can only stay for an hour of time, and that's part of their protocols. There were 7 countries who were vying for parts of Antarctica. There's 3, those 3 that I just mentioned are still vying for parts of it. This is the shipwreck. It was a Norwegian ship that was shipwrecked when it hit Raven Rock. And this just shows you it was icy conditions that day. And these are crab eater seals, which look kind of like Weddell seals. The odd thing about crab eater seals is they don't eat crabs. They were named by the whalers and the seamen that were there, and they just figured they would eat crabs. So they named them crab eater seals. Now, this is a fur seal. This one we weren't supposed to go within 50 feet of, and I'm not within 50 feet of him. Yay for zoom lenses. These guys are brown in coloration and have fur. They're in the family of eared seals, and hence you can see their visible ears here. They are one of the most dangerous seals that are here. And an interesting fact that has nothing to do with anything else about these seals is that they can delay the implementation of frozen embryos, fertilized embryos. I don't know how to freeze them. Who knew that such a thing could happen? These are Gentoo penguins on the left. And this is a skua. A skua is a bird that is gull-like in its size and its shape, but it will eat penguins, especially the babies and whatever else they can get their hands on. They're 19.5 inches long. They weigh anywhere from 31 3/4 to 57 ounces. And they eat birds, fish, rabbits, carrion. And on the right is an Antarctic cormorant, and he's bringing nesting material to his nest. And I was just thrilled to have captured that picture. And this is a Weddell seal, where you can see the mottled stomach this time. And the reason I put these two pictures here is that here he is lying on the beach with his flippers down, and he's just enjoying a snooze. And here he is with his flippers up in the air while he sleeps. He's just levitating them. But he's totally asleep, so that was fun. This is an old whaling boat that is just shipwrecked here, and this is a Gentoo on the right. By the way, the Weddell seals are anywhere from 882 up to, I think I told you that, 1,323 pounds. So they're big guys. Now, this is a Weddell seal and her pup. You can barely see the eye on the left. You can see his face here on the right. And I'm going to give you a chance here to see him move a little. As you can see, it's snowing. Okay, this is, you can see the black volcanic sand that my husband is walking on the left. That's the one you can dig and the hot water will come up. And on the right, I had friends that went all the way up to the top, and you can see one of the crew is up here. It was really icy up there, and I chose to be safer and not go all the way up. Now, in the afternoon, the weather started to improve, and Rob and I had been chosen to go on a science boat with the marine biologist, which was a lot of fun. And they perform experiments because they're down here to get information. So the first experiment we did was to use a hydrophone to hear seals or whales under the water. And we actually heard a seal under the water until the battery went dead and we couldn't hear it anymore. But it was good to do. The second, we tried to measure the depth of the water, and that's with this instrument here. And the trouble was you have to put this into the water and it needs to go down. But the current was so strong, it would not go down. So that didn't work either. The third experiment was to measure the amount of krill in the water. And that was this here. You put this down to find out. And we were able to get it down, but not as far as it needed to go. But we were able to get a sample of the krill, which we saw under a microscope when we got back on the ship. The fourth experiment was using a CDT, which I don't seem to have in the picture. I'm not sure what happened. Oh, yes, I do. Here it is. This is a CDT. It measures the conductivity, depth, and temperature of the water, which we were able to determine. And then we collected water to bring back to the ship to look under the microscopes. So that was fun. And when that was over, they took us to another landing on the other side of Deception Island, which is Pendulum Cove. So we had 2 landings and a trip on the water with the expert there. I include this picture. This is Pendulum Cove, where we're going for that second landing. But this just gives you a picture of the perspective of size. And this was our ship here. What you see on the bottom left, that was a calved iceberg. It was part of the glacier. It calved off, fell into the water, and that's what it leaves. And here you can see some of the cliffs up in the Pendulum Cove area. I'm not, yeah, I think I told you that they do lectures every day, so that was really good too. The proof of glaciers and ice melting, there are a number of factors that are contributing to endangered species down in Antarctica. Climate change is one of the biggies. There's also chronic oil pollution, fishing that they do of fish farms that are in the water and catch some of these creatures and species. So there are a lot of different reasons, but glacial warming is a real thing. And if you look here, you will see the melting that is going on. And that's why I included that picture there. This is the remains of the Chilean station that was destroyed in the 1967 eruption. It looks like the erector set my brother used to use when he was little, and that's all that remains of that entire station. And you can see it up here a little bit more, and this bottom one is just walking along the shore there. These are the Gentoos and the that were on Pendulum Cove. This one here, I thought was a rope, and I was going to bring it with me to trash it when we got on the ship, and I didn't. I took a picture. It turns out that was a penguin, and it's been there for years, so things get preserved very well down in Antarctica. And this again is showing the perspective of size. This is on our way to our next stop. And this is, on our way to what we thought was going to be Cougarville, but ended up not being. But we saw lots of pointed icebergs, like triangles, on the way there. And finally, we reached the Antarctic Peninsula. And as I said, the plan was to go to Cougarville. But again, that plan was thwarted as well. excuse me, I just wanted to show you this one. These are up here, Shetland Islands, the places we had gone. On the peninsula, we went first to this area here. Then we went to this area here and this area here. So they brought us down first, and then we went back up through this whole area is the Gerlache Strait. And so we reached the Gerlache Strait in the morning of October 28th on our way to Cooverville. That was about 7 o'clock in the morning. And for anyone who knows me well, I don't like mornings, but I saw any number of them with very minimal grumbling on this trip. There was ice blocking the entrance to Cooverville, which is why we could not go there. And so instead, we went to Nico Harbor, which was fantastic. This just shows you some of the ice in the water, but it looks prettier than it did in Admiralty Bay. Nico Harbor is an inlet of the Antarctic Peninsula discovered by Adrian Gerlache, which is why it's the Gerlache Strait. This was a phenomenal day, although it began with a Zodiac ride from hell, according to my husband. But it was a phenomenal day. In the morning, it was awful. It was raining. It was snowing. It was, you can't imagine. It was very windy and there were large swells. They decided that we couldn't do a landing at that point because the swells were too high, but they would take us out on a Zodiac, which, because of the swells, hit the swells every time you hit a wave. My husband had the honor, so to speak, of being the first one on the left side. So when that boat hit the wave, the water would come up. He had on dry pants, dry jackets. He was totally covered and he got wet down to his underwear. So it was one of those days, but he protected me very well. So we saw sheathbills, snowy petrels, places where the icebergs caved off, lines of erosion, tons of icebergs, except for the weather. And you can see the weather here is not good. But the scenery was just beautiful. Just showing you some of the scenery here. Now, the cube-like shapes on the ice are caused by blocks of ice and snow that fall off the top of the glacier, come down and land on the bottom of the glacier and forms those cubes and whatnot shapes. This is on the right, the sea ice right alongside the ship. And this reminds me of some mythological creature from the days of the nights, but it was just beautiful, as I keep saying over and over. This is looking at the icebergs that have been shaped by the wind and the water, and you can see the shapes, especially here from that. What you see blue here, that's the actual color it was. That is ice it's the underneath of the iceberg. And so that can sometimes go down about 2 kilometers. And you're looking at the same thing here. This is ice under the water. And you can see the fact that it was still snowing at that time. And this is just a little bit to show you how bad the weather was. This is from the Zodiac.
Gen 2.
Yep, they're all Gen 2s. Okay, and I wanted to show you, these are not dots. These are penguins. And I just wanted to show you how many there can be, so I have a couple of shots. This one just shows you they continue up. And I think I'll stop it there. And they're on the top. They're on every ridge. And I just like that picture, so I included it in it. Okay, now these are some of the icebergs from when I had the opportunity to go in a Zodiac with the professional photographer. And there were about 6 of us. And these are some of the pictures from that time. And as I said, this is not a reflection. This is the ice underneath the glaciers, the icebergs. This is a snowy petrel. And again, the icebergs with the ice protruding down. This will give you some idea. This was from the morning, in the really. Oops. Okay. So this was a leopard seal, excuse me. They're a threat to penguins, penguin babies, crab eater seals. They'll even eat them. And so I was just happy to see one. And we were greeted back on the boat with Baileys and hot chocolate. And after that Zodiac ride, that was a really nice way to greet us back. This is some more of the pictures when we miraculously, in the afternoon, the temperatures went up to the 30s, blue sky appeared, and the water was flat. And it stayed that way for 2.5 days, which the crew told us was unheard of. And so we were excited about that and really were able to get good pictures because of that. These are some of the icebergs that you can see, and their colors. We were able to get down in the Zodiac so that you could put your camera right on the top where the edge of the raft is and take pictures. And this was my favorite iceberg that I took in Antarctica. And I love the blues that you can see there. And these are some more of those pictures. This huge glacier over here was a lot of fun. And that's our ship in the background there. So again, with the perspective of size. Different kinds of erosion. This is a snowy petrel. They teach us to put our hand up in the air if a bird is above you, because the birds will land on your head. And in fact, it landed on the bird expert's head while we were out in the Zodiac. And this is my second favorite picture of all of them. It's the snowy petrel up above one of the peaks. And here he is in a couple of other locations. He's a beautiful bird. More of the snowy petrel. And this one down here is a sheathbill. He is not liked at all by the crew because sheathbills like to come onto the boat and poop everywhere. And The crew doesn't like that for some reason. This is a leopard seal. They're the third largest seal in the world. They are exceptionally solitary. They sometimes smile, but I don't think I got to see that. And apparently they sing underwater, but I didn't get to hear that either. The only animal that eats this guy, that this guy is scared of, is the orca. Other than that, pretty much not. And I was supposed to go camping overnight, and we were supposed to take an Antarctic plunge, and both of those activities were canceled due to wind chill and whatnot. Not sure I was going to do the Antarctic plunge, but I was going to sleep over on the land of Antarctica. So this was our landing in Nico Harbor. This is a Weddell seal. These are the gentoos. And again, they're everywhere. This is the headless gentoo. Very famous. I'm making that up. He's scratching his back or something. You'll see another headless gentoo in the next shot on the right. They have gorgeous areas that they are in. The picture up on the top right is some kind of, like to think it's some kind of mate squabble. My husband took that picture. It's the only one he took that's in here. But this was just a beautiful area. And this one I put on metal. I have a metal canvas of it. I just love the colors. And we bid adieu to Nico Bay and go on to the next area. And the next area was Wilhelmina Bay that we ended up at. And it was another beautiful day. Wilhelmina Bay is right in here. And these are pictures from Wilhelmina Bay. These are rock cormorants that have a colony on Wilhelmina Bay. And this is your first look at the governor, which I am going to tell you about in the next slide. The captain of this ship, they were on a whaling. It was a whaling ship. And they had once been a cattle carrier. And now they were doing whaling. And on January 27th, 1915, they were at sea gathering the whale oil in barrels. And as the mission was wrapping up, it was a tradition that they have a party. So they went ahead and had a party, and they had dancing and whatnot. And I guess they decided that there wasn't enough room on the deck for this to happen, so they would do it below deck. And someone must have accidentally knocked over an oil lamp or a whale oil lamp, and the fire quickly got out of control. You can imagine with all those barrels of whale oil on the boat, it was going to go up pretty fast. Captain was very smart. He intentionally ran the ship aground to save the crew after the fire broke out. No one was hurt. They all got onto the land and were rescued by another ship. But the governor stays here. And it was an interesting story. These are pictures. These evoke Egyptian thoughts to me. It looks somehow like a pyramid and a sphinx or something. But these are pictures from Nico Harbor, Wilhelmina Bay. And these are Antarctic terns down here and just various glaciers that you can see. And another look at the ship, because I went backwards. Again, this is not reflection. This is ice underneath the iceberg that you're seeing with the color blue. And again, and more. And there were so many. I took 6,600 pictures, which you're not going to see, and 55 videos. So this you can really tell on the left about how far down that ice is going. Same thing here. I always see a pig when I look at this. I don't know why, but I do. More icebergs. And this picture was taken by one of the crew members of underneath when he was out kayaking. This picture was taken by the professional photographer. It's the inside of one. In fact, the one that I took that I showed you that I really like, this is the inside of that. This one is a reflection. Okay, you are looking at just beautiful glacier. And this was on our way cruising to Paradise Bay. So what you're going to see here is on the way there. That's a fur seal. This is the black ice. Before I said black ice was ice you can see through, but and clear, and the pressure had gotten it. That's black ice. These are probably leopard seals. And I think they have a penguin. So we're just going to skip to the next one. Now, I never knew there was such a thing as a beaked whale, but there are. It's like a dolphin snout in front. This is the Arno beaked whale. They are very shy. They don't like to be around people. We saw 2 different pods of them. And where this triangle is, you can sort of make out the beak. He's got it underwater a little bit, or drinking, one or the other. You can see all these white lines on the back are scars. The males have 4 teeth, and they use those teeth on other males during altercations, during mating season, whatever. And so you can see there's a lot of scars on their backs. They do travel in pods. They are approximately 32 feet long, but nobody knows how much they weigh, what their maximum weight is. And they're not seen all that often. This is just some of the icebergs on the way to Paradise Bay, which was indeed a paradise. And this was the end of that particular day. And we go next to Paradise Bay, which could not have a more apt name. It was absolutely beyond breathtaking. The colors and the color of the water. I mean, this picture up here is not filtered for color. That's the color that was there. And I love that. I'd like to go back tomorrow. This is the Argentinian research station. Now, back in 1984, they had an Argentinian researcher who may have been a doctor, I'm not sure, but he had been at the station for a year and he wanted to leave and go home. And Argentina wanted him to stay for another year. And so his solution was to burn the place down. He was rescued by the US ship, the Hero, and no researchers have been there so far this year. They still use this. They rebuilt. The penguins were there to greet us, but they're, as I said, only there in January and February, if at all. but we saw glaciers, sea ice, ice fields. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was about 20 degrees in the morning. It got up to about 30 degrees in the afternoon. We were extremely fortunate. And like I said, the crew had told us that this is just unheard of. These are Gentoos swimming in the water and looking at us. And this is all over by the Argentinian research station. This is a sheathbill in with the Gentoos. And this is some of the beautiful scenery. If you were to turn around in a circle on the ship, looking around, this is what you would see. It was such a beautiful day that the crew made a barbecue for us outside on the 7th deck at lunchtime. And I can't imagine a better place to have had a barbecue. And I also discovered something called, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, glute wine, which is red hot wine, hot red wine, excuse me, made with cinnamon. And it was delicious. This is just some of what we saw on our way out. This is the Chilean research station at Paradise Bay. Again, occupied by Gentoos. And what other kinds may be there, and some porpoising penguins. That was the best video that I got of their porpoising. Just to make sure I'm in the, right place. Okay, this was a landing, no, I'm sorry, this is as we're coming by on the cruise ship, just taking pictures. There were tons of penguins all over the place. That's a sheathbill at the top left, and just some more of the gorgeous scenery. And there is a black-browed albatross on the right-hand side that had landed. As I said, they're very awkward landing and taking off, but they do very well in the air. This is just a beautiful iceberg as we pass by. Excuse me, glacier. This one hasn't broken off. Another of the glaciers with a beautiful reflection. That is a fur seal on the ice. Not in the least disturbed by the fact that we were there. And this is as we were coming to the end, to the entrance. The entrance, we were going somewhere in this area. Believe it or not. And then we got surprised by an unexpected landing on Des Moines Point, which is Winnicke Island. And so these pictures are from there. And this just shows you where we were. Why this guy is so dejected, I don't know. I'm sure I'm putting human emotions on a penguin, but it was fun to think about. And I love the light shining on his beak here. And I really like, this is a mated pair. And I liked how they were holding each other there. And again, they're all over the place. And this is Des Moines Point, Winnicke Island. And this is, I'm going to show you the Gentoo mating dance. They're in the process of it here in this picture. And I'm going to show it to you here. Not yet. Right there. See, they bowed. Now they're going to walk around each other. There's another couple doing it up there. And they will keep bowing and walking around each other over and over and over and over again. So that was really fascinating to see. It was Halloween by this time. So when we came back over the Drake Passage, this is the gray-headed albatross. These are the Cape petrels. Our crew did a carving contest. I think they were going to let us do it, but then the swells started and they were afraid we'd hurt ourselves. So they did it. And I have a question. Daniel, maybe you can answer. Does anyone know what this is on the right-hand side?
Oh, so let's see. I mean, it looks like a waterfall.
It does look like a waterfall, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Is it an avalanche?
It's an avalanche
Okay, okay.
that happened right in front of us
Wow.
around 9:15 at night. And I
Wow.
do have better pictures, but this one, you couldn't tell as much what it was, so I used that one.
That's great. It's a great shot.
Thank you. And that's the end of my trip of a lifetime, which it truly was. And I hope you enjoyed it. And again, I thank the library for allowing me to share. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, if I can, that you might have.
All right, we got some great questions in throughout the presentation, and I'm going to try to cluster them because some of them were similar. But the first question that came in a couple times during your presentation, you referenced the defogging of items. What does that mean exactly?
It means that once you get back on the ship, they have to spray you with a decontaminant because you might have picked up something. They are so conscious of keeping the penguins and the birds and the seals and whatnot safe that they want to make sure you don't track anything from one stop to another. And that's what I mean by that.
Sure. There were a couple of questions about the specific distances you were required to stay away from some of the wildlife. Was there a specific reason to like the 15 feet from penguins or the other distances you mentioned?
Yes. The reason there's greater distance for like the leopard seal is because they're more dangerous. You know, the penguins are curious but they're not going to hurt you. Whereas the seals, if they feel that they're being threatened because you're too close, you could get into a situation.
Sure, that makes sense. A couple people referenced the comment you made about seals eating rabbits, and just wondering, like, are there rabbits there?
Did I say rabbits or carrion?
Oh.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I will have to go back and look at that.
Okay, great.
No, we did not see any rabbits, and I don't remember saying rabbits, but I must have.
Okay, a couple comments came in. It may have just been the sound coming through, and
They eat carrion. They eat other birds. They eat krill. They eat cephalopods, crustaceans, not rabbits, because they're
okay, perfect. Very good. Now, do they have tides on the beaches there?
Yes, they now that well, they have tides in some of the areas. You know, that's a good question. We really didn't discuss that while we were there, and I may have to look that one up.
Great. Okay.
I know that there are tides in certain straits that we went through because we could not go through unless it was at a particular height, either lower or higher. But in Antarctica itself, I'll find out and get back to you.
That's great. Where did the cormorant get their nesting materials?
From the tops of the glaciers where there's not as much ice anymore.
Okay. There were a few questions about like, what's the tour company? What was the purpose of the tour? Was it recreational, scientific? And what were the people you were with? Like, what were their nationalities and what was that experience like?
Sure. The company was Hurtigruten out of Norway. Very well done. And there were, the strange part, usually there can be anywhere from, up to 250, 300 people on a ship. We only had 78 passengers on our cruise, which meant there was more crew than there were of us. And so we got a lot of attention from the crew, which was very nice. And we didn't have to go through a lottery system. Some people have to go through lottery systems. You want to go snowshoeing? They put the numbers in a hat and draw out 100 and away you go.
Wow.
We didn't have to deal with any of that. There was a contingent of Germans on board, British, some Australians. I made lifelong friends with two women from England who I've been in touch with every day since.
Wow.
So there was a good mix of us, some from the States. And we did this as recreation, but we did it on an expedition ship so that we could get the science part of it and get the lectures and learn about the explorers that were down there, Shackleton and Amundsen and whatnot. We did that to do that. This is a great way to do that. You do not want to take one of those ships, the big cruise ships that go down there, because all you do is wave at Antarctica as you go by. Do not stop.
That's frustrating. Oh, well, it sounds like you chose the right one. Someone asked about like what were you wearing when you were on the Zodiacs? Were they wetsuits, dry suits?
I wore long underwear, merino wool. I had on ski pants, dry pants over the ski pants. I had on the long underwear, a long sleeve shirt, a sweater, and then my parka. And over the parka, they give you a $10,000 jacket to keep.
Wow.
Mind you, the $10,000 is not the price of the jacket. They give you a jacket.
Yeah.
For going on the ship. These trips to Antarctica are not cheap, but they are so worthwhile. And I have never been happier that I did it.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's great. How did you get from the ship onto the Zodiac?
On that part there was, and on one of the pictures you could see on the bottom of the boat, there was a little landing. The Zodiac pulls right up to that. So you're on the ship, on this little landing that they pull out, and you get handed off to one of the crew members, and you have to grab his arm with your hand, and they get you onto the Zodiac. Getting off the Zodiac is a different story. You have to do that on your own. So sometimes it's on land. You get off on land, you just lift your feet, but sometimes you have to get off in the water. And it's not high, it's right near the shore, but there are wet landings as well as dry landings. And again, you get back in the boat the same way and go back to the Zodiac, and you go from the Zodiac right onto the ship.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now, one question was asked about, was your husband too cold after getting wet during the boat ride?
Actually, no. He seems to have a better temperature control than I do. He changed immediately, and he was fine. He was freezing until he got off the Zodiac, and you could tell because his beard was partially frozen.
Oh, wow.
There was a lot of ice in his beard, but that Bailey's sure helped.
Yes, sure. All right, we have time for a few more questions, and thank you. These are great questions that keep coming in. Have you considered putting these photos together as a book because they're so beautiful?
I'm in the middle of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And did you see any other types of whales other than the ones you showed?
Yeah, we saw humpback whales, we saw orcas, and we saw the Arno beaked whale.
Oh, that's great. And did you have to get refueled anywhere along the way, or did you have all the fuel from when you left from Norway?
They fuel up before you leave. but when they stop in Puerto Natales in Patagonia, they could refuel
Okay, great.
and
And
get.
and now all in, how much would you estimate this trip would cost if someone was looking to do this exact trip that you did at the same time?
Ours cost us about 12,500 a person.
Okay.
Um, it it can be a lot. You have to look for the deals,
Mhm.
and that's what we did. And I wouldn't have gone when we did, although I'm sure glad we did.
Mhm.
But if you're going to offer me $11,000 cheaper, I'll
Mhm.
take it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Was there a specific resource you used to find deals, or is it just general searching online?
My husband had researched companies. He liked what he saw at Hurtigruten. We called the travel agent that I use
Mhm.
to book things, and he called me back within 20 minutes going, "Oh my God, Phyllis, go now."
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. The majority of the comments that came in were just saying how wonderful the presentation and the photography was, and I agree that it was just an absolutely fun thing to do on a Friday night, and just to get to a small glimpse into such an amazing journey that you took. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.